It all blew up the night of Thanksgiving, right there in the middle of the toast, with my sister holding a glass of wine like a queen addressing her court. Her voice was syrupy sweet, but the smile didn't reach her eyes when she said, "And of course I made the pumpkin pie, since Melissa's too busy to cook these days." The room laughed, politely, uncomfortably, like they weren't sure if it was a joke or a jab. But I knew. That was the moment I realized. I had been invited, not included. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Melissa Grant, and I've always been the responsible one, the steady one, the sister who showed up, even when it cost me, the daughter who didn't ask for much, who paid the heating bill when Dad was between jobs, who stayed behind during college to help Mom after her surgery, the one who kept the peace. My sister Danielle? She was the shining one, homecoming queen, theater kid, the one who ran off to California, crashed and burned through 2 failed startups, and somehow still came home to applause. Even when she moved back into the house and brought chaos with her, she got sympathy. I got silence. Mom said it was because Danielle felt things more deeply, that I needed to be the bigger person. But over the years, being the bigger person just meant learning how to disappear quietly. Still, I kept trying. I sent gifts for my niece's birthday, even when Danielle forgot mine. I helped Mom refinance the mortgage when Danielle couldn't make rent. I showed up to every family holiday, bringing casseroles and wine and invisible Band-Aids for the emotional cuts no one talked about. I smiled through Danielle's passive digs, through Mom's sideways compliments, through Dad's half-hearted thanks that landed like dismissals. And then this Thanksgiving arrived. Danielle had insisted on hosting at Mom's house this year, technically hers now since she moved in to help. She'd sent out a glossy Evite like it was a company gala, complete with a dress code. "Festive, but not too formal," it read. When I walked in, everything smelled of cinnamon and expectation. Candles flickered on a long dining table set for 12. My niece, Chloe, ran up to hug me, and that moment almost made it worth it. Almost. Because the slideshow started while we were eating. Danielle had cobbled together a family memories reel that played on the living room TV. Laughter and oohs filled the room as photos of birthdays, beach trips, graduations flipped by. I watched. I waited. But I never came up. Not once. Not the Thanksgiving I cooked alone when Mom had the flu. Not the baby shower I paid for. Not the Christmas I drove through a blizzard to attend. Not a single photo. It wasn't just an oversight. It was erasure. A deliberate cropping of my existence from the family narrative they preferred. I stared at my plate. The turkey was dry. Or maybe I just couldn't taste anything anymore. Chloe leaned over and said, "Why aren't you in the pictures, Aunt Mel?" And I wanted to say, "Because they don't see me, sweetheart. They never have." But I smiled and said, "I guess I'm the one behind the camera." When dessert came, Danielle stood to make her toast. That's when she took her shot. Casual, calculated, cruel. "And of course I made the pumpkin pie, since Melissa's too busy to cook these days." Laughter again. Dad chuckled. Mom smirked into her wine glass. Even Aunt Carol gave a small approving nod. I felt the pressure behind my eyes, like the dam was ready to break. But not yet. Not in part 1. I smiled. I drank my wine. And I promised myself tomorrow, or maybe tonight, that smile would be the last lie I'd ever tell them. I wish I could say I let it roll off my back. That I took a deep breath, smiled, and went back to eating pie like nothing had happened. But something cracked open inside me that night. Not a sharp shatter. A slow, painful split. Like an old rope giving way after years of strain. The air was too warm. My chest was too tight. Mom dabbed her lips with a cloth napkin and murmured, "You know, honey, Danielle's just trying to keep the traditions alive." I blinked at her, at the nerve of it. Danielle, who once spent 3 Thanksgivings in a row on wellness retreats in Sedona, who nearly set the sweet potatoes on fire 2 years ago, who'd called me at midnight last month crying because she'd lost her job again, but then posted a photo the next morning from a rooftop mimosa brunch. That Danielle was keeping the traditions alive? I laughed, but it didn't sound like me. More like a gasp twisted into something sharp. Across the table, Danielle was already pouring herself another glass of wine, flashing that smug, sparkling smile. She was always good at making her cruelty look like charm. Her voice had that stage-ready tone when she spoke again. "You know, Mel, you used to be a lot more fun before you got so serious. I mean, remember when you used to bring those store-bought pies and act like they were a big deal?" The table chuckled. Chloe's face fell. "Enough," I said. It came out low, steady. No one heard me, or maybe they pretended not to. Danielle was still talking. "I mean, thank God I had time to do the slideshow this week. Someone had to remind us what a real family looks like." Aunt Carol gave an approving little laugh, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Dad said something about the game being on later, and then Chloe, sweet Chloe, asked, "Mom, why didn't you put Aunt Mel in any of the pictures?" The room went still. Danielle froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. "Oh, baby," she said with a tight smile. "We just used the ones from my camera. I didn't have any of Aunt Mel this year." Lies. I'd sent her 3. I stared at the table, at the cranberry sauce, the stupid pine cone centerpiece, my own hands clenched so tightly in my lap the knuckles ached. And then I stood up. At first, no one noticed. I wasn't the kind of person people look to for scenes, but then I picked up my glass, barely a sip of wine left, and clinked it gently with a butter knife. Everyone turned. The laughter died. Danielle rolled her eyes. "Oh boy," she muttered. And I smiled. Not a polite one, not a peacemaker's grin, a new one, a tired, sharp, don't care anymore smile. "I just wanted to say," I began, "thank you. Thank you for reminding me tonight that I'm not part of this family in the way you all like to pretend." Mom looked up. "Melissa, that's not fair." "Not fair," I cut in, still calm. "You're right. It's not fair. It's not fair that I drove through snowstorms to show up to holidays, only to be erased from the slideshow. It's not fair that I helped pay for this meal and got mocked for not baking a damn pie." Danielle set her wine down a little too hard. "Mel, don't do this. Don't make a scene." I laughed again. "A scene? Danielle, you live for scenes. You've been directing this one for 20 years. Her face flushed. "You're just bitter." "Bitter?" I echoed. "You're right. I am bitter. Bitter that being responsible made me invisible. That every time I said no, I became difficult, but every time you flaked, you were going through something. That Mom called me serious instead of strong. That Dad let you speak over me at every dinner table. That I spent years shrinking myself so you could take up more room." I felt my voice rising, but I didn't stop. "The truth is, I'm not mad about the photos, or the pie, or the snide little toast. I'm mad that I spent half my life trying to earn a seat at this table, when I should have walked away the moment I realized no one left room for me." Silence. Not just quiet, heavy, thick, the kind of silence that carries weight, truth. Danielle's jaw clenched. "You always play the victim, and you always play the star," I said quietly, "but I'm done being cast as your supporting act." No one moved. Dad looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. Mom blinked hard, but didn't cry. And Chloe, sweet, observant Chloe, reached out and took my hand under the table. I didn't say another word. I set my napkin down, picked up my coat, and walked to the door. No one followed. Not then. But by the time I reached my car, my phone had already buzzed 3 times. Uncle Roger, Aunt Carol, Mom. I didn't read them. I drove away with both hands steady on the wheel for the first time in years. The house didn't burn down after I left. No one ran into the snow, tears streaming, begging me to come back. There was no dramatic movie ending, just silence. And weirdly, peace. I spent the next morning in flannel pajamas, making myself blueberry pancakes the way Mom used to, before she stopped cooking and let Danielle take the apron and the credit. The smell filled my apartment with something soft, something that felt like comfort on my own terms. No one was watching. No one was grading me. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow, like something had cracked and let air in. Maybe it was the first time in years I'd actually been able to breathe. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. From Mom. "You embarrassed us. Danielle's still crying. This isn't the way to handle family disagreements." I stared at it, thumb hovering over the reply. Then I set it down. An hour later, another message. From Danielle. "You ruined Thanksgiving. I was trying to do something nice. I don't know what's wrong with you lately, but you need help." And then, hours later, one more. From Chloe. "I didn't know everything. I'm sorry. I love you, Aunt Mel." That one I responded to. "I love you too, kiddo. None of this was your fault." I didn't hear from Mom again for a week. When she finally called, I didn't answer. It was like the fallout was happening in slow motion. People didn't react right away, but then the gossip started to trickle in. Aunt Carol told Cousin Lydia that I lashed out because I'm still single and sad. Uncle Roger told someone I always had a chip on my shoulder. Danielle posted a carefully curated Instagram story of her wiping away fake tears while holding a mug that said "Family First." But none of them said my name. It was like I'd been excommunicated. Not with anger, with erasure. And still, I didn't crumble. Instead, something shifted. I found myself talking louder in meetings. I started saying no without explaining. I cleared my voicemail without listening to any of it. I slept better. I stopped clenching my jaw. I bought myself flowers for the first time in forever. A few days into December, I got a package. No note, just a journal with a red leather cover. On the first page, in handwriting I didn't recognize, was a single line. "Write the story only you can tell." I stared at it for a long time. Maybe it was Chloe, maybe not. But I picked up a pen and I wrote. Not about the pie or the slideshow or Danielle's voice dripping with sarcasm. Not even about Mom's silence. I wrote about the little girl who stayed late after dinner to wash dishes without being asked, who took care of her sister when she was sick and sat through every recital, every tantrum, every storm, who learned that love was earned through sacrifice and that approval was always a maybe. And then I wrote about the woman she became, the one who walked out, finally. That night, I made tea and stood by the window watching the snow fall, thick and slow and quiet. No calls, no apologies, no corrections. But I didn't feel alone. Something had cracked that night, yes, but not me. It was the illusion. And once that broke, the truth finally had room to breathe. It had been 2 weeks since the wedding. 2 weeks since my life exploded in front of 87 guests and 4 chafing dishes of garlic mashed potatoes. 2 weeks of silence from my mother, from Danielle, from almost everyone else. And then, one Sunday morning, came the knock. 3 quick raps, hesitant. Not the entitled thump I had once memorized. I approached the door and peeked through the peephole. Chloe. My sister's daughter. 17, maybe 18 now, wrapped in a pale blue hoodie with sleeves pulled down over her knuckles. In her hands, a paper bag with grease spots at the bottom. My hand paused on the doorknob. Years of instinctual caution pressed down on me. But then I saw her shiver, and I stepped aside. "Hi," she said. "I baked banana bread." The warmth seeped through the paper bag. The scent was familiar. Nutmeg and vanilla and something else, something that smelled like Mom's kitchen, only now it felt like memory mixed with aftertaste. I let her in. She perched nervously at the edge of the sofa, like a tenant afraid to overstay. "I saw the TikTok," she said. Of course she had. Apparently someone had recorded my speech, and by now it had made its way across half of Teen Talk. 1 million views and rising. A woman in her 30s, in a cranberry dress, calmly laying bare her family's generational dysfunction in front of a wedding crowd. "I didn't post it," Chloe added quickly, "but I saved it." I folded my hands. "Why?" She looked down. "Because it was true, and because it made me see you differently. Better." part of me recoiled at the thought of our private pain becoming public spectacle. But another part, a smaller, fiercer part, felt a strange pulse of vindication. "You okay?" I asked her. She nodded. "Yeah, but I wanted to say something. I think I understand you better than Mom does." I raised an eyebrow. Chloe shifted, hugging her knees slightly. "Like how she always seemed happiest right before she picked a fight with you, like she needed the drama to stay the center of things." I blinked. That hit harder than I expected. "She told me you were mean," Chloe continued, "that you thought you were better than everyone." I tilted my head. "And you believed her?" "I used to, but lately—" Her voice broke for the first time. "I see the way she treats people, how she twists things. I thought it was just how families worked." We sat quietly for a while. The banana bread, now half gone between us, cooling between sips of lukewarm coffee. We stayed up until midnight, unwrapping old family secrets like brittle, forgotten gifts. Each story Chloe told confirmed a truth I had always felt but never named. Her confessions stitched together the fragmented pieces of our shared past. Her view of her mother, her view of me. "I didn't realize how often she lied," Chloe whispered. "Even about little things." "Lies grow," I said softly. "Sometimes they get passed down like heirlooms." She left around 12:30, bundled again in the blue hoodie, but not before pulling a folded card from her pocket. "For you," she said. After she left, I opened it. Inside, a hand-drawn sketch of a match lighting a candle and the words, "You lit the way. I see you now." I stood there, the letter trembling between my fingers. It wasn't validation from the world I craved anymore. It was this quiet understanding from someone who had finally chosen to see. The next morning, she sent a text. "Can I come over again next weekend? Maybe help with pancakes?" A simple offer, but it landed with the weight of something revolutionary in a family where help was usually demanded, never offered. The first invitation came on a Tuesday morning. An embossed envelope, ivory with gold trim, slid through my mail slot like a ghost from a life I thought I'd left behind. Inside, an invitation to Mom's birthday brunch. Hosted by Danielle. The name glittered in cursive across the bottom, like a signature on a check I wasn't cashing anymore. I stared at it for a long while. I didn't tear it up. I didn't throw it away. I simply folded it in half and slid it into the back of my bookshelf. The place I kept old things that no longer belonged in daily reach. 2 days later, my phone rang. Mom. I didn't answer, but I listened to the voicemail. "Melissa, I know we've had differences, but this brunch is important. It would mean a lot if you came. Danielle's planning something special. Please consider it. For me." There was a time those words, "for me," would have gutted me. Not now. I sat with the message for hours, not out of doubt, but because I wanted to feel absolutely nothing. And when I did, I smiled. That Sunday, I made brunch, just not theirs. Chloe came over, carrying oranges and pancake mix and a new haircut that made her look 5 years older. We made waffles, fruit salad, and cinnamon toast. We talked about her upcoming art portfolio. We danced to music from my old high school playlist. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A group text from Danielle. "Wow, Melissa. Not even a text. Not even a gift for Mom. Selfish, as always. But at least we saved your seat, even if no one noticed you weren't in it." That last line stung more than I cared to admit. But Chloe was watching me, and I wasn't about to give Danielle my piece. Instead, I opened the junk drawer, pulled out an old photograph. It was from a barbecue 15 years ago. Everyone gathered around a folding table. Danielle laughing with her arm around Mom, Dad at the grill, me in the background, blurry, refilling drinks. Even then, I hadn't had a seat. I slipped the photo into an envelope, added a note. "I was never truly at the table. You just got louder when I left it." I didn't sign it. I didn't send it. but I needed to write it, to name the thing I'd been holding. Later that night, I got a message from my cousin Sam. We hadn't spoken in over a year. "Hey, just wanted to say, I saw the video. I was there, and I didn't clap that night, but I should have. You said the things we all felt. Thank you." Small words, but they mattered. The next week, Chloe came over again. This time, she brought 2 friends, quiet, wide-eyed girls who kept glancing at me like I was a mythical creature. "She told us about you," one said. "About the speech." I laughed. "Oh, no, it's not that deep." But Chloe shook her head. "It is. You changed the script." They stayed for hours, ate leftovers, talked about art and family and what kind of women they wanted to be. At one point, Chloe whispered to me in the kitchen, "You didn't just walk out of the old table, you built a new one." And that's what stuck with me. I didn't burn the old table. I just stopped asking for a seat at it. I built one where people passed the syrup without asking for a resume, where stories were told without weaponizing the truth, where silence wasn't a punishment, but a pause between laughter. That's the thing no one tells you. Breaking the pattern hurts, but staying in it costs more. I didn't get an apology from Danielle, or from Mom, but I did get peace. And some days that peace looks like cinnamon toast at noon. Some days it looks like a 17-year-old girl pulling up a chair and asking, "What if we did it differently?" It's funny how quiet changes. There was a time it used to feel like punishment, like exile. Now it feels like peace. No late-night guilt texts, no forced brunches or fake smiles, no shrinking myself to fit someone else's version of acceptable. Just the sound of a spoon in a coffee mug, Chloe humming off-key in the other room, and me exactly where I need to be. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't even the years of being overlooked. It was letting go of the role I thought I had to play to be loved, the peacemaker, the backup plan, the one who always swallowed hurt with a smile. But I know now, you don't have to bleed for people to call it love. And silence? It's not empty when it's chosen. It's not lonely when it's honest. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day Mom will call again. Maybe Danielle will soften. Maybe not. But either way, I won't be waiting at their table, hoping they finally see me. Because I've already built one of my own. And here, there are no power plays, no performances, just people who show up as they are and leave the door open for others who are still finding the courage to stand. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever been the quiet one, the overlooked one, the one who held everything together while being forgotten, then please know this: you are not invisible. You are not wrong for walking away, and you are allowed to choose peace, even if no one claps when you do. If this resonated with you, share your story in the comments. I read every one. And if you think someone out there needs to hear this too, hit like, subscribe, or send this to someone still holding their breath at the wrong table. Because the truth? We don't just need doors to close. We need windows that stay open, letting light move freely in and out. That's where healing lives.